So what if I told you compressing the golf ball and hitting the best shots ever might not be about what you do with your lead wrist, but just what you do with this trail wrist instead? Keep watching, because this might blow your mind. So all great ball strikers compress the golf ball. But what does that mean? So it basically means that as they swing, they deliver less loft with their iron, they get the low point ahead of the ball so the club travels down, they transfer great energy from club speed into ball speed and produce fantastic distances with great accuracy. Now I know what you're thinking. If you're watching this, they might do that, but you might not do any of those things. So what I said there is the great ball strikers, from that address position, they don't get back to here at impact. So what they do is they create much more shaft lean, the weight's into that left side, they de-loft the golf club, and that allows the club to travel down and hit the ball and then the ground. And I've done some similar videos on this in the past, and golfers say, well, why would you de-loft the golf club? Why wouldn't you just use a straighter faced iron, like a 5-iron instead of a 7? But it's that movement that creates that ball and then ground contact. And the way that we do that is creating shaft lean. And a lot of golfers will talk about how the lead wrist being in a different position, being much more flexed instead of extended, helps do that. But you might be watching this and you might be like me, who you play golf right-handed, and all the feedback's about lead wrist, so your left hand. But you're right-handed and you know much more and feel much more about what that right hand does. So I'm just like you. Even though I work on left wrist, I do feel right wrist, I'm much more able to get that feel. So I've got my hack motion on my right wrist, and the beauty is it works for both, but I've done videos on lead wrist, and the right wrist for me can be very, very eye-opening. So what are we looking at? So we're basically talking about if the wrist is more in that position, it's extended, and if it's in that position, it's much more flexed. So you can see the right wrist, if it's flexed, we're adding loft. If it's extended, we're de-lofting it. And that's what the great ball strikers do. Now, what I would say for most golfers is there can be a little bit of a challenge that maybe they can't do with their wrist what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to show you now how we're going to check that. So I've got my sensor on, everything's set up, but we can see here, that's very straight. As I move into extension, we can see the number going up. And as I move the other way, we can see it going down, and the minus number is flexion. Now, great ball strikers actually have to have the ability to be able to do that a certain amount. And as a general rule, most elite ball strikers can do at least 60 degrees of extension. Now, I'm going to show you on this. You might not have this. If you're interested in one, pop in my description below. There's a link in there. But if I go from there and I move, I can see that I can get about 60 degrees, just over 63. Okay, so I actually have the ability to do that. Now, if you don't have this, a really great way is 6-iron or 7-iron, that lie angle. If I pop that up against there, that lie angle there is about 60 to 62 degrees. So can I get there? Can I get my hand to touch it? Yes, I can. You might be somebody who can't, so you might actually find that you can't get to where I want, but we can definitely get you improving. So I'm going to hit a shot. And I would say generally, I think I'm not bad at doing this. So we will look at the numbers on TrackMan and then I'll talk about what the app shows me. So we're going to set up. Okay, so solid, good club head speed, decent ball speed, launching at 18 degrees, low point 2.5 inches ahead, and carry at 157. So when you look on the app, and I'm not too worried about address for now, but at the top, I was plus 60, so that's great. But at impact, I was minus 5. And that's an issue for me because it's generally going to promote a little bit more loft and make it a little bit harder for me to get the energy from the club into the ball. So what did we see there? We saw that at the top of the backswing, I was actually very, very good. And you can see how that hand's more underneath. Now that allows me to drop the club down, but this is where it starts to go a little bit array for me. As I'm coming into impact, I would still like more of that, with that right hand being more on top of the shaft. But I'm a little bit more this way through impact. So almost a little bit scoopy. So I love this because as okay as that was, it definitely isn't what I need to be doing. So I'm going to stand up there now and I'm going to try and feel that I make my swing nothing different at the top. I'm going to try and feel that that right hand stays under, and then as I get on here, it's more on top of the shaft at impact. Now that's more than I would like to see, and I think if I moved face on and did that, I don't think I'd want to be turning my 7-iron into such little loft. But if I can feel that that right hand stays more on top, so that wrist angle's maintained longer, let's kind of see what that gives us. So I'm going to set up. Okay, so some decent numbers on TrackMan, launched it a little bit lower, hit it a little bit further. But again, we can see on the app there, very good at the top, not good enough at impact. Definitely that thing for me about releasing the club this way is the killer. So I need to be a little bit more this way into the ball. And it's definitely easier for me to feel that than it is with that lead wrist. But it is hard. You know, nothing's easy. So we want to feel really that I've got that angle with that trail wrist. I'm going to hold that as long as I can. And let's see what that gives us. So not a great strike. And again, didn't really do it. So it's definitely for me that on the way back, everything feels good. And once I'm there, we want to feel as we're starting down that club, we kind of twist the club this way. So it's almost like from here, the wrist goes under, that gets the club shallowing out, and then I can keep turning. And the hands will release the golf club, but I'm just doing it a little bit early. So let's go again. Good at the top. That's where I want to feel. But I can see when I release the club, that's kind of where I am at impact. So I need to try and hold that and almost feel like I release the club later for me. Slightly different way of maybe describing it for different golfers, but we're going to get there. So a little bit thin. Not a good shot by any means, but definitely good at the top, getting closer to where I want at impact. And it definitely, for me, if I can hold that position, and this is definitely something that I find challenging, if I can hold that position, I can keep turning my body out of the way. Whereas I know I don't, I tend to stop a little bit and release the club. So a lot of golfers might look at that and say a bit scoopy. I wouldn't agree with that, but definitely a little weaker than it could be. So again, let's get there. Everything feels good. So again, some nice club head speed, ball speed a little bit down, launch well, low point is good, carries reasonable. And again, the app there showing pretty consistent at address, at the top, and fairly consistent at impact. But I do know for me that I think I'm better at this certainly than a lot of the clients that come and see me. A lot of golfers are very much this way, and we can see on the app there kind of over 20 degrees. Adding loft, struggling to control low point. So it's getting there, even some one-handed practice swings. Definitely can't do that. Definitely feel more this way. And that's where I love the app. You can have it on practice session where set your parameters and you can either hear a noise or feel that vibration. That's kind of where I want to be. Through to there. So rehearse it and then try and do it. And this is where golf's hard, isn't it? Again, showing very consistent, and that's my shape of shot, but just not quite getting there as fast as I would like. I'm sure you guys don't want this to be an hour-long video. So I'm going to get there, again, really good back here. I've got that little movement. Can I keep going? Now I'm going to do this, but I reckon this might miss a bit further left. Nope. Definitely missed left. Club face was very, very closed. So the beauty with this is I can go on here and actually compare myself to a PGA Tour player if I wanted to. Now what I would say, it's not one size fits all, so not everybody will get in the same place. But I do know for me, it's something I need to get better at. So I'm not horrible at it. But if I can get from there and feel that I can retain that angle a little bit longer into impact, then as I put the left hand on, you can see much more shaft lean. That's going to get my low point a lot further ahead. But it is tough. But remember, practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if I keep working on this, I will get better at this. So can I set up? Can we feel exaggerated? So some decent club head speed, very nice ball speed, just a little bit of a push, but no. So we can see on the app, I'm definitely consistent. I'm not as consistent as I would like, but I'm probably, well, I know I'm kind of not a million miles off because it's amber. I could definitely do with being a little bit better. But remember, it's not always about lead wrist. Sometimes, just sometimes, particularly if you're a right-handed golfer, what we're doing with that trail wrist can be much more influential on how we deliver that club. And if you can work on that and get good with it, I can guarantee you'll get better and your shots will improve.